Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Aquarius, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of January 2025. I hope you are well. Happy birthday if it's this month for you, and Happy New Year also. I'm using the Lost Forest deck for you today, which is unusual. This hasn't come out in a very long time. Very interesting. So what to tell you, if the reading resonates and you'd like to go a little bit deeper, you're welcome to do that at the end of the video via the first link in the description box. Might be the second, not entirely sure. But there's quite a bit of stuff down there for you to read. So if you're interested, please do knock yourself out with that. But let's get straight on with this. Aquarius. Can I have 3 cards for Aquarius, please? Whoa, okay. We have the Four of Swords. In your recent past, notice that it is in the reverse. What about current energy, please, for Aquarius? Skipping around all over the place today, Aquarius. We have the Wheel of Fortune. Why, of course. And what's coming towards Aquarius, please, for January? There we go. Queen of Swords in reverse. Okay. We've got the Ten of Wands that's dropped out. I want to show it to you, but I'm not going to keep it out, which is very interesting. That would be the Ten of Fire. It's the Ten of Wands, right? I like this, though, because it's depicted as a tree. Now, we don't usually see that within the tarot. Normally, these sticks have been, cut, bundled, and put on somebody's back. But not only is it a tree, so these wands are still attached, if you will, to some sort of cohesive whole. We also have it blooming. And that, I think, gives a very different kind of interpretation to, what is this, Saturn in Sagittarius? I think it does. It is, and it does, for sure. That's very interesting. We're going to pop that there. Actually, we're going to leave it on the table. At the bottom of the deck, we have the Tower. Oh, I just got a little goosebumpy head wiggle thing when that came up. Don't be concerned, because there's a lot of movement here. But it's interesting that these 2 Swords cards, and swords are your suit, they represent air, should be in the reverse. It feels a little bit like an agitation, I'll be honest. But with the Wheel of Fortune showing up here and the Tower underscoring everything that's going on, and this Ten of Wands down here, which has a very, very different feel to it to most Ten of Wands. I have to say, I'm trying to think the last time that I used this deck. I think I used it as a clarifying deck. Maybe it's about 3 or 4 months ago. But it's been a very long time since it's come out. Well, why that should be relevant, I don't know, but it feels like it is. So I'm going to use the Rider-Waite to clarify. Oh, dear God. No. Hey, Ian. That's right. That's a cat is actually in the roof and shouting at me from there. I'm going to shut the window. She'll kill herself if she tries to jump from the overhang into the window. Anyway, right, let's have a look. Four of Swords reversed. Why is this here for Aquarius, please? We have the Fool. And we have the Ace of Wands. Why, of course. Absolutely. Right, tell me about the Wheel of Fortune, please. Why is this here? Right, we've got the 3 of Swords showing up on its side. We've got the 6 of Swords showing up on its side. Goosebumps again. Tell me about the Queen of Swords, please. 10 of Cups reversed. Interesting. What do we have here? Just fucking, I was waiting for that. Judgment on its side and the 3 of Cups. We've got the 4 of Cups at the bottom of the deck here. Now, I'm going to start with that 4 of Cups because it's a very interesting card. It is a card that I have associated in the past with things like abandonment issues. Sometimes that kind of, a bit pulling back from a situation that actually would feed you. You'll notice here in this card Let's put, oh, look at that, 10 of Wands underneath there as well. That we have a cup being offered by, I don't know, the Sky Daddy or whatever it is, right? Universe, source. Use your own terminology. And he's saying that in an almost sulky manner, like, I don't want this, I'm not interested, right? The idea being that I can't really see what is going on. I think it's very interesting that we should have an Ace of Cups there that's being offered, but we've got this chap here staring at these 3 cups, and we have the 3 of Cups down here. Now, what that means exactly, I'm not sure, but hopefully it'll come out over the course of the reading, right? Now, for you, I do not feel like that particular interpretation applies, right? The kind of sulky stroppy, I'm not taking what's being offered to me. And certainly not a case of abandonment issues or anything like that, although abandonment is something that does flare up on the Aquarian thing, whether you're doing the abandoning and the rejecting, or whether somebody else is doing it to you, or whether there is a kind of a root cause for that whole cyclical state of behaviour to go on, right? The other interpretation that we apply to the 4 of Cups sometimes, and the one that I feel that fits more readily for you, is this kind of boredom and apathy. Now, I'm not saying, and I want to be very clear, that you are bored or apathetic to the circumstances that you're in. Neither do I think it's some sort of, trauma-induced need for drama in your life. But I do think that the winds of change are blowing in really very hard for you, Aquarius. You would know that. You kind of got, star position at this point because Pluto has just entered your sign. Like, it's really amping up the Aquarian influence over the world at the moment. And as a result, I think there's an innate understanding that for Aquarians, something kind of big is brewing, right? But on the other side of the zodiac, as I am from you, as a Leo, a 4 placement Leo, we can see similar kind of rumblings going on over there. Now, by opposition, Pluto is affecting Leo. But it's, I don't know, sometimes you can see in the other sign something that corresponds to its opposite. I think it's quite often useful to check in with the opposite sign to see what's going on, for that more information or a different perspective, right? Now, for Leo, the message was soon but not yet. Like, there's something really quite strong that's blowing in for Leo quite soon. But they've been ordered to sit down and rest, right? Do not overcommit, do not do any of these things. There's something slightly different happening for you here, Aquarius, but I can see that it's of a similar sort of vein, which is really interesting. The 4 of Cups feels to me like it's an absolute readiness to let go of what has been, right? Whatever these cups are representing to you, or whatever that Ace of Cups is representing to you. We've been talking quite a lot about your emotional state over the last few months. I forget what we've talked about exactly, because that's what I do, right? But I know that emotional stuff has come up again and again and again for Aquarius, and you're probably getting to the point where it's feeling quite tedious, actually. It's like, I don't want to deal with any more emotional stuff, please. I think you're about to get your wish, because there's something. So December was a very muted month, right? It didn't feel like it was full of the usual Sagittarian kind of excitement and socializing and partying and all that kind of thing that we associate with the month of December quite often, right? It felt like it was very introverted, very introspective. Now, we were spending quite a bit of December in a Mercury retrograde, so that was not entirely unexpected, but I don't know, it felt quite pointed. Now, for quite a few of the signs in January, that energy continues, but it seems not for you, if I am quite honest, because everything about this reading seems to be suggesting movement and outward expression. And it feels like it's a little bit more, it doesn't feel like it's entirely straightforward. Like, just as Leo can feel the build-up of energy and is having to kind of be very disciplined with themselves about not trying to do too much while all of this is building up, right? Simply sit and observe. For you, it's like that same level of power is building up, that same level of something is kind of rumbling along underneath, but it's missing either a kind of a cogent understanding of it that you would like to usually apply to whatever's going on in your life, right? Because you're very good at taking things apart and analysing them and all that kind of thing. That possibly is missing for you at this time. And it feels a little bit confusing off the back of that, because, like, what do I do with all of this energy? Or you have arrived at a place, because of the last few months of kind of rolling the emotional stuff around, of realising that actually you don't need to analyse it, you don't need to understand it all, you don't even need to feel like you're mastering it in any particular way. Which is just as well, because I do feel like the Tower is indicating a big change of direction for you that is incoming. I mean, all of the cards are speaking to that in some sort of way or another, right? So we have, well, let's start over here. We have the Four of Swords in reverse. Now that card there for me, I always think Petit Mort when I see that, right? It's like a little death. It's my meditation card. It comes to me to mean a card of mental well-being and whatnot, right? Taking the time out where you need to just allow yourself to assimilate whatever has gone on, right? Process it, understand it, and then from there we kind of emerge out, right? I mean, think about it, the fact that it follows on from the Three of Swords, it makes a lot of sense when you see it that way. And this taking a break, taking a step back, which is very much what Leo's been advised to do, being the central meaning of this card, potentially, with all the healing that comes from that, right? When it shows up in the reverse, it says you've kind of hung back for long enough now, right? It's time to come out of that introverted state of being, and you've understood that, and that is what you have done, because this very strong energy, which is incredibly creative in nature, right? We have that Ace of Wands there, and the Ace of Wands is very much about what you do as much as anything else. But then also the energy of the Fool, which represents Aries, but I do believe is considered to represent air. I don't know. I think there's probably a bit of disagreement between esoteric bodies as to which one it means. It doesn't really matter. The point is, the Fool is the indication that there is something new brewing. It's a very, very powerful state of absolute fucking zero, where nothing and everything exists simultaneously, right? And you seem to me to be kind of aware of this building energy where all things are possible and nothing is happening and everything is happening at the same time. Essentially, the state of pure chaos. So I've been talking about entropy quite a lot, particularly with the signs in the dark half of the year, I have found. And, you know, what we've got is the disorder, the fracturing that actually Aquarius enjoys very much. Decentralization, blowing apart, rebellion, all of that kind of stuff, right? It's very much happening, and I'm sure every Aquarius across the planet is seeing it for what it is. But the point of that is not so that it is nothing but chaos that exists. It's so that a new kind of order can be brought forwards from this. Now, you feel to me like you have been reborn in some sort of way, but I want to make it clear that I don't feel like this Tower is speaking to this part of the reading. Right, you might say, well, I've had a couple of Tower moments, right? And they don't need to be bad. This is the thing with the Tower moments, right? It's sudden, shocking revelations sometimes that are really positive can be of the nature of the Tower. It's got a kind of Uranian flavour to it, I think, anyway, the Tower, even though it's a Mars card and therefore, you know, Scorpio and Aries and whatnot. It feels like you've gone through some sort of rebirth process. There's something that's now open and your mind is full of ways in which you could start expressing this outside of you, right? The energy of both the Fool and the Ace of Wands kind of pushing you to feel like you're engaging with something new, some sort of new aspect of the cycle. The thing is, we'll notice that we've got the Ace of Wands and the Ten of Wands down here. We've got the idea of the Ace of Cups over here, and we've got the Ten of Cups reversed over here. It feels like it's not taking a steady, predictable trajectory like you would expect. Because I think, just like the rest of us, Aquarius, although, you know, we associate your sign with rebellion and decentralization and breaking things open and starting again and innovation and experimentation and whatnot, at this point where things are breaking down into chaos, whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, I think most Aquarians would think it's a good thing, that also means that predictable timelines and predictable activities and predictable patterns of anything happening are reduced. It's got this almost staccato kind of quality. Big energy, want to do something, but the Tower feels like it's an overarching energy, which is to say that it exists somewhere back here in time, but it's also existing over here in time, right? To say like that there's an arc here of towery stuff, and what you're experiencing is almost like foreshocks or pre-shocks, or no, that's not even the way to put it. I don't know, there's something definitely seismic about it, right? But the earthquakes would be the expression of that. And if you only focused on the earthquakes, you wouldn't notice that what that means is that there's an entire fucking tectonic plate moving around. And so what's being lost in a subduction zone over here is probably creating mountains over here. That's the nature of the Tower that I'm feeling playing out here for you. I do wonder if there is a bigger picture aspect to this reading that maybe you haven't quite picked up on yet, because you've been focusing on what is the expression of the energy, which is these little earthquakes that are happening here, there and everywhere. It could be that you're trying to look to the integrity of the structures that exist in your life and going, well, I'm not sure that they'll take another earthquake, but maybe that's all right, maybe that's fine, you know, without thinking of the fact that maybe the entire landscape is going to get wiped in some sort of way. Now, I want to be really, really clear. What I do not feel about this for you, Aquarius, is that this is a doom and gloom month. Actually, far from it. Now, that's quite interesting, because the astrology of this month is, it's kind of ropey in places. Obviously, we started off the month with the Mars-Pluto conjunction. I don't know about you, but like I felt that really quite fucking hard. But then I have a Mars-Pluto conjunction in my chart, right? So maybe that's part of it. It feels like the difficulty for you is, rather uncharacteristically, seeing the bigger picture of what is happening to you personally, rather than focusing on the little details. And it's funny, because the level of energy that's coming through you, it sort of suggests that big picture would be the way to process it. It would be the way to express it out. It would be the way to observe it. But it feels like maybe you've been trying to, well, maybe you just haven't seen that, right? I don't know if I'm explaining this very well. I hope you're keeping up with my ADHD as it's bouncing around here. But like, I'm not trying to be deliberately obtuse. I'm just trying to capture all of these bits as they're kind of bouncing around. And I think maybe that is half of the problem, right? It is very difficult to see the big picture. Now, that would be true for everyone in 2025 anyway, right? Let's just put that on the table. But there's an even more significant aspect of this that seems to be affecting you. It doesn't feel bad. It doesn't feel necessarily too uncomfortable, but it does feel like it's bouncing around. So your attention's over here, and then suddenly your attention's over there, and there's all of this big energy that's going, what I need to initiate. I need to start something. I need to do something. Maybe you need to start a revolution, right? But the circumstances don't seem yet to be properly aligned for that to happen. Now, in your current energy, we've got the Wheel of Fortune, and that's the energy of the Wheel of Fortunes is somewhat a tricksy kind of thing, because it is by definition a wheel, and it's very difficult to see where you are on the wheel at any given point, right? Because there is no such thing essentially as the top of the wheel, TM. There is not the bottom of the wheel, TM. There is simply a circular motion that is going round and around and around. And I think if you try and work out whether you're at the top of the wheel or the bottom of the wheel, in all likelihood, the wheel's fucking moved before you've kind of oriented yourself, right? So that's where the tricksy energy of this kind of Wheel of Fortune comes in. But there's something kind of interesting for me about the way that it's depicted in the Waite Smith when you look at that deck there. Because the Wheel of Fortune fucks me for quite a long time. I was just like, what the fuck is it about, right? How is it different from the World card? Well, obviously it's not the end of something, but it is a 10. And 10s do represent ends, but we're not at the end of the major arcana, so it's not an end per se, but it's an end of sorts. It's a change, it's a movement, it's something fluid and potentially something kind of expansive, but then again, because it's Jupiter ruled, right? But then again, if you try and focus too hard on what your position is in that, like, the wheel's already fucking moved. It's not designed to stay still. So whether you feel like you're at the top of the wheel or the bottom of the wheel, probably not the right question to ask yourself. It's like, are you in the center of the wheel, such that whatever's going on actually is relatively irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. So the thing that I really clocked about this, I should pull this out and show you because I think it's important to see it. The thing that really nailed the Wheel of Fortune for me was noticing that it had the 4 fixed signs on it, of which you are one, right? Actually, let's leave the World card out so I can show you what I'm talking about as well. The others being Taurus, Leo and Scorpio. Was that although on each card we have those 4 fixed signs in the corner of the card, there's something very different going on between the two. So in this one, we've got these fully realised creatures, right, playing a much bigger role in the corner of the cards as it is there. And we've got additionally this idea of graduation and growing up and expanding and, getting ready to start the new cycle and whatnot. But in this card here, what we've got are all of those characters in a smaller state, but studying. They're reading books. They're learning something. So then the Wheel of Fortune comes to me to mean this, or to indicate this idea that we're kind of in the middle of something bigger than we've understood, and it is something that is working on us in some sort of way to indeed expand us, because that's the whole point of personal growth, right? It makes you bigger than your problems. It doesn't make all your problems go away. It doesn't make everything perfect, but it makes you more able to deal with the challenges that come along. And as you get bigger and stronger, you can deal with bigger and, potentially more difficult situations. So I would say to you, although you can feel the energy of the novelty or the energy of the chaos or something rather primordial that kind of moving through you that is certainly agitating your mind at the moment, it is entirely likely that you don't have enough information to work out whether you are indeed at the top of the wheel, the bottom of the wheel, in the middle of the wheel, or whether there is no spoon. Let's put it like that, right? Oh, that's interesting. Sorry, that dovetails beautifully with the weekly reading that I've done for the 13th to the 19th, interestingly, of January. That's for people on Circle. Talking about Maya and illusion and all that kind of thing, right? Now, if we think too hard about this, if we try and make this a predominantly mental endeavour to make sense of things, I do believe we're going to come a cropper. You'll notice that every single swords card on the table is not showing up in the upright, which means that the energy of this is not supporting mental involvement in what is going on, right? So don't try and contextualize yourself in time and space. Don't try and understand where the energies could be taking you, because it's quite frankly completely fucking impossible to project your consciousness into some sort of future, right? And say, well, that's what it's going to feel like when I get there. We can't do it, because what it doesn't do is take account of the way in which the consciousness changes in order to meet that situation, whatever that is. And what's becoming very clear is that this Wheel of Fortune is overarching everything. The Tower is overarching everything. And I do think it's that bigger picture that says, if you noticed how much the tectonic plate was moving around, and the fact that there's land disappearing this side and there's land being created, there are indeed mountains being created on this side, then you would see simply that the earthquakes that are happening in your life, be they big or be they small, were actually just symptoms of some sort of wider change that is going on. There's some sort of bigger picture event that's happening, that you seem to be totally in the centre of, which would make all kind of sense, right? So we've got the Six of Swords on its side here, and we've got the Three of Swords on its side here. And I think it's interesting that I mentioned before that you've been doing an awful lot of work on emotional stuff in the last few months, and you were probably getting a bit bored of it. It's a little bit tedious. I'm an Aquarius South node, so like, yeah, I get it. So we have the idea of moving away from something, and indeed this card talks specifically about moving from choppy waters into calm waters. Well, good luck to anybody if they think they're going to do that this year, right? But the idea is that we're moving away from some particular state of being. Now we've got the Four of Swords over here in the reverse, albeit, that is talking about like the mental agitation, and we kind of leap straight to the Sixth. What is missing? It's the Five. The Five of Swords is about mental conflict. Sometimes it's about conflict with other people. Sometimes it's about self-sabotage, whether or not you believe that actually exists, and there's a question of whether that is really a thing. Happy to get into that with people at another point if you're interested. But it's showing up on its side. Now the Six of Swords in reverse quite often indicates some sort of return to something, right? And it would be a return to something of the nature of the Five of Swords, potentially. Whereas the Six of Swords would represent that kind of moving away to a safe distance. It's sitting here held almost in abeyance, as a kind of neutral possibility, sitting there. The Three of Swords is also doing the same. And the reason why I find that interesting is because we've got this idea of the collision between truth, information, perception of reality, other people's words, other people's thoughts, just information generally, colliding with some sort of internal emotional processes, right? That's why the world changes when the Three of Swords hits for you, right? Because in that moment, nothing is what you thought it was. Everything changes in the light of the Three of Swords. For me, the Three of Swords in reverse indicates a healing, because what we've got is gravity actually pulling those swords out. You can't heal around steel. Like, you just can't do it, right? So the swords have got to come out. And then the heart can heal in some sort of meaningful way. But both of these cards sitting there kind of present but not really doing anything. So there is a way of reading these to say that it is possible that the Wheel of Fortune is spinning so hard around you, over you, on top of you, underneath you, around you, whatever, that it's difficult to see whether you're supposed to be moving forwards or coming back to self-examination, whether you've done enough work on your emotional state to leave it alone, right, so that the swords are coming out of it, or whether we've got to go back in some sort of way, right? It's a kind of, it feels to me like it's an indication that you're not really supposed to be doing anything, actually, at this point. Not trying to force anything, not trying to understand anything, not trying to It's kind of analyze your way around stuff. We're at the point where analysis potentially is impossible because of the amount of creative energy that's trying to run through you at the moment, right? It simply wants out, and you're trying to find that way to work out which way it comes out, and it's proving to be kind of difficult, but this is where the beauty of what's going on is also occurring. You know, just as the Fool is everything and nothing at the same time, I feel like Ten of Wands is the burden, it's the difficulty, but it's, fuck me, it's where the beauty's happening at the same time. I'll hold that up for you to see there. And here's the 10. No, fucking camera, focus. I don't think it's going to focus. Let's hold it up to you there. All right. It's the most extraordinarily beautiful tree. Right, and it's all red. I'm a Leo, and I like red, right? It's blooming, even though things are difficult. It's rooted, even though things are difficult. It seems to suggest to me, Aquarius, that the things that you're wrestling with are not what you think you're wrestling with. It is entirely possible that some of you have experienced some real rapid evolution, rapid ascension, rapid whatever you want to call it, right? Elevation. And what we're waiting for is your mind to realise that it's not trying, it shouldn't be trying to make sense of anything that's happening here. I feel like this Ten of Wands is a really powerful representation of what you are without even realizing that it is what you are. I would say the last couple of years have been quite ropey for you, on and off, actually. And while you've been wrestling with the small stuff, or thinking that you've been wrestling with the small stuff, there's probably been quite, feel like it's been quite big stuff. Something very significant has been happening in the background to you as an entity that is currently haunting this meat sack that you're walking around in at the moment, you know? Fuck me, I've been blathering on for ages, right? So, the rest of January is dominated by the energy of the Queen of Swords in reverse. Now, that could be quite a cold, quite a calculating, quite an unpleasant energy, but I'm not reading it that way for you. Not because I'm all sunshine and rainbows, but just because I simply think it just doesn't fucking apply, right? What the Queen of Swords does really, really well, just as the King of Swords does, which is your card, is put emotions to one side when they are considering information. Right out of the way. They have no part to play in the assessment of facts that's going on for air signs, generally speaking. What I feel here with this Queen of Swords, actually, is that rather than putting emotions to one side, you're finding a way to be what you are, which is by nature analytical and somewhat less emotional than most people, right? Because you can put those walls in place and go, like, right now, I need to not feel that. And instead allow some part of that to be informing your thinking. Now, I'm going to put thinking in air quotes because, to my mind, as hard as you can, you may be trying, I don't think that you are getting a handle on the thinking aspect of this month. It's almost elusive, right? Now, speaking as somebody who has both ADHD, which cranked up beyond measure after my brain injury, and also someone who has a brain injury, right? Sometimes thinking in a straight line is really, really hard. Particularly if you forget what it was that you were fucking thinking about. it can be very stressful. I'm not suggesting you've all got ADHD and are stressed or whatever, but I do feel like there's a lot of jumping around in things of a thinking nature for you, and that is okay. That is actually where you are supposed to be right now, because it's about balancing the emotional and the mental for you so that you can use both as and when it is required. I mean, this is why the last few months have had so much emotional stuff coming up for you. It's why it seems to have dominated so much of your attention. I feel like it's simply just been redressing the balance. The ability to be analytical will return at some point, but I think the focus of January for you is people. Now, the fact that the Judgment card is also showing up on its side here, and the Judgment card can speak to, decisions that you make. Sometimes it can talk about the resurrection of circumstances that you thought were kind of done. Quite often you see it come up in retrogrades when, random exes turn up from the past. But for me, it is simply about big life-changing decisions. It's on its side. It's saying, like, well, you can make big life-changing decisions if you want, but you know that you're not quite thinking straight. You know that you're not analysing things in the way that you would usually do. How about we allow this situation to play out a little bit, particularly as it pertains to other people. Now, we're not talking about significant others or, your one-to-one relationships, because we would expect to see the Two of Cups here if that were the case. We're talking about people en masse. Now, whether this en masse is the collective, right? The collective of humanity, the collective of Aquarius, the collective of whoever, right? Or whether we're kind of bringing it in and it's, the closer community around you, it's your friends, it's your extended family, close family, right? This is what we're talking about with these right here. There seems to be a moving away from one, potentially. Or, let's put it in a better way, right? Because given what I think about the Ten of Cups, which I won't bother boring you with here, it feels like it's moving everybody into an ante-room or a waiting room or something like that, right? And there's something kind of weirdly, the word I'm looking for, it's not contrived, but it's kind of organised, and it's not coming from you, Aquarius, right? There's a kind of organisation around the people that you are with at the moment that's seeing everybody kind of emptied out of the rooms of the, whatever you live in, hypothetically speaking, metaphorically speaking, and everybody's been put into the lobby, everybody's been put into an anteroom, into some sort of waiting room, getting ready for everybody to kind of resort themselves and re-sift themselves. And what's really important, it doesn't require your intervention at this point. I can't remember which sign it was. Maybe it was Gemini. I think it was Gemini. That were also feeling this big swelling of big swelling of energy coming in. And really, really wanted this external expression of it, right? Because Gemini, like you, they want to express outwardly, and like fire signs do so. And the message for them was, very clearly, was just sit on it, right? Because maybe what you're supposed to be getting used to is what this feels like, to have this much energy running through you, possibly. Or maybe it's just because it's like Leo, right? Soon but not yet. You'll get your chance for external expression, but it isn't here yet. Something kind of sideways about that, and very, very related to people for you. Which is saying, like, everybody's emptying out of these rooms. They've all turned up in the lobby, in the hallway, whatever, right? And they're all getting ready to move around. It's not that relationships are ending exactly, and it's certainly not that you are deciding to end them. It's that there's some sort of huge shuffling that's going on now. Now, my advice to you would be to watch this happen, don't interfere with it. Right? This is an observation only. I also would not try and make sense, Aquarius, of what is happening here, because it belongs to the order of the overarching energy rather than this, right? This is in some way, right, one of the little earthquakes. Like, what's going on here? Like, why are those people going off in that direction? Why have those people just walked out the door over there? Why are those people heading to the metaphorical kitchen, right? Like, what's going on? Shifting, sorting, ordering around you. And I'm not saying that you need to be passive, because I think that would be very difficult for you to do. But I would put a lot more effort into simply observing and then checking in with how that feels to you as things are bobbing around. Because there's a new order of people, it seems to me, coming into you. What do I want? I want that back over there. And that's the important thing, right? They have to come to you. It's not about you going to them or having, in fact, any kind of influence at all over whether they stay or whether they go. And most important at all is that it's really important not to try and write a narrative around it, because overarching energies. Son of Pentacles, which is Virgo energy right there, right? So we're always already talking about minutiae of things. We've got the Seven of Pentacles on its side as well. And the Nine of Swords on its side. It's like, don't prejudge this race. Don't prejudge whatever's going on here. Understand that there is something a level or two above your pay grade, which is, it seems, moving things around, ultimately for your benefit, for sure. But there's definitely a resist nothing, observe everything, check in with how you feel about that. Because this is all part of the new order that's coming in. Now, you have to get used to feeling the way that you do, right? Holding the amount of power that you do. And I don't want you to feel bad about the fact that you cannot see the more expansive nature of what's happening up, because you're not supposed to. And we see that with the Knight of Pentacles right there. Right? This is very much detail-oriented. Pay attention to what is happening. But what is unsatisfactory about your environment is getting shuffled around and shuffled out, I would say. And the perspective will come on the other side of the process. Don't try and understand it while it's happening. There's something about this that feels actually quite surreal, Aquarius. And that's surreal in the observation rather than surreal in the experience. But nevertheless, I think this is what I'm seeing here. Now, I've been blathering on here for quite long enough. I'm going to go to the extended so that I can try and create some order around what it is that's coming up here, such that it is possible to at least comprehend it, if not fully understand it, right? Because we're not about trying to understand anything at the moment. But if there are ways in which you feel like you seem to be somewhat set apart from the important people in your life, that's okay. Or even the less important people in your life, right? That's okay. Everything is as it's supposed to be, right? No doubt the universe is unfolding as it should and all that. I don't know. I feel like there would be other signs who would struggle with the surreal aspect of this. But everything that's happened in the last few months is just making this a little more bearable for you, albeit slightly discombobulating. Bizarre. Right, I'm going to go over to the extended now, because this is rattling my curiosity quite hard. If you would like to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. The links that will take you to such places are in the description box below. If not, no shade, you do you. Just expect the surreality to crank up and be... possibly expect to be the only person who's really seeing that as well. All right. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.